بسم الله والحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله. I remind you to have a sincere intention in your heart, seeking reward from Allah Ta'ala by attending the lesson. In our previous lesson, for those of you who attended, we went over lesson 5, which talked about a very important matter, and that was the 13 attributes of Allah which the accountable person is obligated to know. Now, inshallah, we will start with the next lesson, the following lesson, which is lesson 6. And it also talks about an important matter and actually very interesting, which is the first of the creations that Allah Ta'ala created. I have a little bit of a cold. Excuse my voice today. So the Prophet ﷺ was asked about the beginning of the creation. What was the first of the creation? And to that, the Prophet ﷺ said, كان الله ولم يكن شيء غيره وكان عرشه على الماء. This means that Allah Ta'ala existed eternally. Eternally meaning without a beginning, for the existence of Allah has no beginning. So the Prophet ﷺ replied that Allah Ta'ala existed eternally and nothing else existed eternally with him. That is, only Allah Ta'ala has no beginning to his existence. And of course, the attributes of Allah. But all other than Allah is created, is a creation. So it has a beginning to its existence. So the Prophet said that Allah Ta'ala created the Arsh, the throne, and he placed it above the water. Then he ordered the pen, al-qalam, the pen to write in the guarded tablet everything that would happen. Then Allah Ta'ala created the heavens and the earth. So the Prophet ﷺ answered the question by mentioning something that is very important. He started by mentioning that the existence of Allah has no beginning, that it is eternal. And we understand that nothing other than Allah is eternal. And the Prophet then told them that Allah Ta'ala created Al-Arsh and he placed it above the water. So this means that the water was created before Al-Arsh. So the Prophet answered them the question by first stating that Allah's existence does not have a beginning, that is, it is eternal, and there is no one attributed with eternity other than him. So this means nothing existed eternally except Allah. And Allah created everything. When we say that Allah creates, it means He brings from non-existence into existence. It means that Allah Ta'ala brings from the state of non-existence into existence. This is the meaning of create. When we say that Allah Ta'ala creates something. So Allah Ta'ala created everything. He brought all the creations from non-existence into existence. Allah Ta'ala did not create all the creations at once. Had He willed to do that, it would have occurred. Had Allah Ta'ala willed for all the creation to exist at the same time, it would have happened. But Allah Ta'ala did not will for that to happen. Rather, Allah Ta'ala created them in 6 days. He created the heavens, earth, and its facilities such as rivers, mountains, and valleys. And the wisdom behind that is to teach us not to be hasty in doing things. So the first creation is then water. The Prophet ﷺ said in another hadith that Allah Ta'ala created everything from water. This was also mentioned, narrated by Ibn Hibban. The Prophet ﷺ said, إن الله تعالى خلق كل شيء من الماء. This hadith was narrated by Ibn Hibban, and it means that Allah Ta'ala created everything from water. So the origin of Al-Arsh is water. This also means that Allah created water before creating light, darkness, earth, and the heavens, and the throne, Al-Arsh, and the guarded tablet, which is referred to as Al-Lawh Al-Mahfuz in Arabic. So Allah made water the origin of the other creations. It is the origin for the other creations. God created the throne from water. Then he created the upper pen, then the guarded tablet. And after these creations, Allah created the rest of the creations, the earth, the heavens, animals, mountains, trees, rivers, and Adam alayhi salam was the last kind of creations, which is the humankind. So the humankind was the last kind of creation that Allah created. So the first of all the creations was water, which is the origin for the other creations. And the last kind of creations that Allah Ta'ala created was humankind. And as you know, the first of all the humans is Prophet Adam alayhi salam. Prophet Adam alayhi salam, he was the first human and he was a messenger of Allah who called people, who was, of course, came with the religion of Islam, and he taught his children, of course, the religion of Islam. Because as we mentioned in our previous lessons, Islam is the only religion accepted by Allah. And here I want to draw your attention to an important matter. I don't know, again, your ages, whether you still go to university, whether you have children, but this is something very important that you teach others and spread it. It is very important to teach people that Prophet Adam alayhi salam was the first human. So it is not true, as some people say, that humans developed from apes. No, this is absolutely incorrect. In many schools, they teach Darwin's theory. And when they say theory, anyways, it is something that is not backed up by proof, by fact. It's not a fact, it's a theory. However, nevertheless, there are still many schools who teach this theory, and some of them go even further into their absurdity, and they teach children what they claim to be stages of development of the human. And they show the students these figures of the ape, and then how it slowly, they claim that it started standing upright, and they have these different names for each of these stages. They have, in many schools, students memorize the names that they've come up for these stages, and they teach them that. It is very important that our children learn the truth, and that is that Prophet Adam alayhi salam was the first of all the messengers of Allah, and he is the first of the humans, and he had a beautiful face, a beautiful voice, as was mentioned in a hadith of our beloved Prophet alayhi salam, in a hadith in which he states that Allah Ta'ala sent all the prophets with beautiful faces and beautiful voices. So Prophet Adam alayhi salam did not run around naked. He did not walk on all four. No, he was beautiful with a beautiful shape alayhi salam. So we said then Allah Ta'ala created as the first creation water, and after water Allah created the throne, which is referred to as Al-Arsh in Arabic. Now if we want to talk more, a little bit more about Al-Arsh, the throne, how would we describe it? It is a platform with 4 pillars, and it is the largest creation size-wise that Allah created. So size-wise, it is very grand. It is very big. It is the largest creation that Allah Ta'ala created. And as you've probably heard, it is the ceiling of paradise. And on Judgment Day, some people will be underneath Al-Arsh when the sun draws very, very close to people. And inshallah, when we talk about the Day of Judgment, you will see what are some stations that people will go through and what happens to some people when the sun draws very, very close to them. So some people will be protected and they will be underneath Al-Arsh. So Al-Arsh is the ceiling of paradise. It is a platform that has 4 pillars. The Prophet ﷺ said what means that the 7 heavens in relation to the kursi are like a ring in a vast land, and the axis of the throne in size over the kursi is similar to that of the vast land over the ring. This means, yes, Al-Kursi is very big, but Al-Arsh is much, much, much bigger than Al-Kursi. So the 7 heavens in relation to Al-Kursi are like a ring in a very vast land because of how big Al-Kursi is. And likewise, the Kursi in relation to the throne is like a ring in a very vast land. So this means that Al-Arsh is much, much bigger than Al-Kursi. This indicates then the huge size of the throne, which is now carried by 4 angels, and these angels are very, very big in size. How big in size are they? It was mentioned that it takes a fast bird 700 years to cover the distance between the earlobe and the shoulder of any of these 4 angels. So it takes a flying bird who flies very, very fast 700 years to cover just that distance, the distance between the earlobe and the shoulder of any of these 4 angels. So you can imagine how big these angels are. Subhanallah. So now there are 4 angels who carry Al-Arsh, and on the Day of Judgment, it was mentioned that there will be 8 angels who will carry it. And as you know, the angels, all of them are obedient slaves of Allah. They're all pious, they're all believers. They always do what Allah Ta'ala obligated them with. They are not males and not females. They do not have children. They do not procreate. They do not eat. They do not sleep. And they are very, very big in size. There are a lot more angels than there are humans. So the throne is surrounded by angels. The throne, of course, is not a place for Allah, because we know and we believe that Allah does not occupy any place. Now, this is a very important matter to understand and, of course, to believe in. Our Lord created all the places and he existed eternally. This means he existed before creating the places. So he existed without a place. Before creating the places, God existed without a place. And God does not change. So after creating the places, Allah Ta'ala does not change. He exists without a place. He is not in the heavens. He is not in the sky. He is not on Al-Arsh. And here you need to be warned against some people who are spreading this falsehood, this disbelief nowadays. And it spreads through social media and it is mentioned in some books. So we should be very careful and not to take anything that we read in social media. We need to be cautious from whom we take the religious knowledge and warn others from these disbeliefs so that they do not believe them. So that if somebody comes to them and tells them that Allah is in the sky, they say, no, God does not inhibit or occupy any direction nor a place. For he is the creator of the skies. He is the creator of all places. He is the creator of directions. He existed before creating them, and he does not need them. So he is not in the sky. He is not on al-arsh. Some people say that he sits on al-arsh, wal-'iyadhu billah. This is also disbelief. Why? Because they are contradicting the belief of Muslims. Remember, the Muslims believe that Allah is not like his creation at all. Allah Ta'ala stated in Al-Quran, لَيْسَ كَمِثْلِهِ شَيْءٍ. Always remember this verse. What does it mean? It means Allah does not resemble anything. He does not resemble any of his creation. Well, let me ask you a question. Whatever sits, we sit, right? I am right now sitting. When I'm sitting, I have a lower part and I have an upper part. Okay, when I'm sitting, you can see, or yourself, when you are sitting, you notice you have a part where you are seated on the chair, for example, and then you have your upper part that is straight. So what sits is a body. It means it is created, for all bodies are created. So what sits is a body, it means it is created. So those who say that Allah sits on the throne, they are saying about Allah that he is a body. It means they are likening God to his creation. It means they are resembling God to his creation. It means they are contradicting the Quran. They are contradicting the fundamentals of the belief of Muslims. And of course, they're not Muslims. So right away, you don't listen to them. You don't take what they say. You know this is falsehood. You know this contradicts the basics of the belief. You don't take it from them. You warn against them. And you teach the teachings of our beloved Prophet alayhi salam, that he said, كان الله ولم يكن شيء غيره. Allah existed eternally and nothing else existed with him. So, and we said that Allah does not change. So after creating the throne, Allah Ta'ala still exists without a place. He is not in the sky, he is not on the throne. So the throne, as we said, is surrounded by angels. It is not a place for Allah because Allah Ta'ala is not a body. He is not in need of a place. Whatever is in a place means that it is created. Now, also know this proof that was stated by one of the righteous caliphs, Imam Ali radiyallahu anhu. Now, who was Imam Ali? In brief, he was the fourth righteous caliph. You know, the fourth caliphs, we have Abu Bakr, Umar, Uthman, and then Ali. So he's the fourth righteous caliph, and he was the husband of Fatima, who is one of the daughters of the Prophet alayhi salam. So Ali was the husband of Fatima. What did he say? He said, إن الله تعالى خلق العرش إظهارا لقدرته ولم يتخذه مكانا لذاته. What does it mean? It means Allah created the throne, al-arsh, as an indication of his power. When we hear how huge this arsh is, and you hear about the size of the angels who are carrying it, of course we know that Allah Ta'ala is attributed with power. So he said Allah created the throne as an indication of his power, and he did not take it as a place for his being. And Imam Ali is one of the people who the Prophet alayhi salam gave him the good news that he will be in paradise. So of course, Imam Ali has the right belief. He is one of the righteous caliphs. He has the right belief. So he also said, of course, what goes along with what the Prophet said, what goes along with the teachings of the Quran, that Allah Ta'ala does not occupy a place and he is not in need of the throne. He did not take the throne as a place for his being. So Allah created the throne and the kursi to show his power, and Allah exists without being in a place or a direction. This was our lesson for today. Now, as we did last time, let's conclude by asking a few questions if you want to answer, so that we make sure that we have understood clearly and we can take the information, inshallah, spread it